All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're cutting through all the noise about AI to get to what's really happening. And we're doing that by digging into the thoughts of Andrej Karpathy, one of the sharpest minds in the field. He's been in the trenches for years, so when he talks, you listen.
So here's the plan. First, we're going to tackle the hype versus the reality. Then, we'll take a quick trip through AI history to see some of the big, missteps. After that, we'll get into how this stuff actually learns. It's a wild analogy. And we'll wrap it all up with this brilliant idea called the March of Nines that explains why this is all going to take a while.
Okay, so you can't open Twitter or read a tech blog without hearing it, right? This is the year of agents, the year AI finally starts doing stuff for us all on its own. Well, Andrej Karpathy is here to pour a little cold water on that idea. He's got a much more, let's say, realistic take.
His take is simple, but it changes everything. He says, look, forget the year of agents. Think about the decade of agents. It's a really powerful reframe. This isn't some quick sprint to the finish line. It's a marathon, a long, tough grind. And that's the core conflict right there, isn't it? Hype versus reality. The hype says it's all happening now. But Karpathy, who's seen these hype cycles before, is saying, hold on, let's be real. He's not saying it's not going to happen, far from it. He's just saying the timeline is much, much longer. So that begs the obvious question, why? Why a decade? I mean, these models seem incredibly powerful. So what's the holdup? What are the big roadblocks standing in the way of having these reliable AI assistants we're all dreaming of?
Well, according to Karpathy, it's not just one thing. It's a whole bunch of massive challenges that are nowhere near being solved. Think about it. We need them to be reliable, not just working 90% of the time, but like all the time. They need memory, so they actually remember what you did yesterday. They need to be multimodal to see and hear. And they have to get really, really good at just using a computer. Every single one of those is a gigantic research problem in itself.
He has this brilliant analogy that just nails it. He says to think of today's AI agents as a really smart intern. You know, they're super promising, they can do some amazing things that blow you away in a demo, but you can't actually hire them yet, because at the end of the day, they're just too flaky. They're cognitively lacking. They just don't work reliably enough for a real job.
Okay, so to really get why we're looking at a 10-year timeline, we got to look backwards for a second. The history of modern AI hasn't been a straight line at all. It's been full of these huge shifts in direction, and frankly, some major wrong turns along the way.
Karpathy breaks it down into about 3 big phases. First, back in the early 2010s, you had the deep learning boom. Think AlexNet, training models to do one specific thing really well, like recognizing cats in photos. Then, everyone got super excited about agents and tried to teach them to play Atari games. And finally, that led us to where we are today, which is focusing on building these absolutely massive foundational models, the LLMs, as the first step. And you know what's really interesting? He's pretty blunt about that second phase, the whole Atari playing agent thing. He basically calls it a misstep, a big detour. And he should know, he was right there in the thick of it at OpenAI back then.
So what was the big mistake? They were trying to get the AI to do things before it could properly understand things. It's like trying to build a skyscraper without a foundation. It just doesn't work. The huge lesson was that you first need that deep foundational power of representation, that world knowledge that you get from a giant LLM. Then, and only then, can you start teaching it how to act.
Okay, this next part is maybe the most fascinating piece of his whole argument. It gets to the very core of how we should even think about building AI. It's a clash of 2 totally different philosophies.
See, on one side, you have this idea that we should build AI like we're building an animal. You know, let it learn from scratch, out in the wild, through trial and error. But Karpathy says, nope, that's not what's happening at all. He argues we're building ghosts, digital entities that are born from imitating the massive amount of human knowledge we've dumped onto the internet. This really breaks it down. Think about it. Evolution is the optimization process for an animal. A baby zebra can run almost right after it's born because millions of years of survival have baked that ability right into its hardware. We can't do that. Our optimization process is, well, it's just throwing the entire internet at a model. The result isn't a physical being. It's this ethereal spirit entity, this ghost that just mimics what it has read.
And I love this quote. He calls this whole process of pre-training on internet data this crappy evolution. It's a perfect description, right? It's our kludgy, messy, but ultimately practical way of trying to replicate what nature does over eons. It's how we create that knowledgeable starting point.
So what this crappy evolution gives us is an AI with 2 different kinds of memory.
The pre-training part is like its long-term memory. It's this massive, compressed, but kind of hazy recollection of trillions of words. But then there's the context window, the stuff you're talking to it about right now. That's its working memory, and it's crystal clear.
And here's the kicker. The difference in how the AI learns in these two modes is just staggering. Get this. Karpathy did the math, and the model learns from the information in its working memory, the prompt, 35 million times more efficiently than how it learned during that initial pre-training. 35 million!
That one number explains so much. It's why an LLM feels so intelligent when you're actually talking to it. That's its working memory firing on all cylinders. The magic you're seeing isn't just some static knowledge base. It's the model actively and efficiently processing information in real time.
Okay, so if these models are so good at learning in the moment, why aren't they everywhere yet? Why can't we just deploy them as agents? Well, this brings us to the last big idea, and it's a concept Karpathy picked up from his time at Tesla working on self-driving cars.
It's called the March of Nines. And the idea is pretty simple but profound. Getting something to work 90% of the time, that's your demo. That's the first 9. But getting from 90% reliability to 99%, that takes the same amount of work. And then getting from 99% to 99.9%, you guessed it, the same amount of work all over again. Every single 9 you add to the reliability is an exponential mountain of effort.
You can see it here visually. The effort just explodes. Going from a cool demo to a real product, and then to a robust product you can actually trust, it's not a linear path. That last little bit of reliability, that final 9, is where all the blood, sweat, and tears are. Especially when you're talking about something like a self-driving car, where 99.9% isn't nearly good enough.
And that right there is the punchline for this whole thing. That massive gap between the flashy demo and a product that you can actually depend on, that's the chasm. That's what separates the year of agents hype from the decade of agents reality. That's the 10-year journey.
So what's the big takeaway here? According to Karpathy, we shouldn't be bracing for some sudden AI explosion. It's going to be a much more gradual thing. A slow, steady automation of tasks that just diffuses across the economy over time. You know, a lot like how computers rolled out. You're not going to see some crazy vertical spike in GDP. It's just going to continue the same long-term growth trend we've been seeing for a long time.
And that really leaves us with a final, pretty important question to chew on. The narrative is always, get ready for the AI explosion. But what if that's the wrong frame? If Karpathy's right, and what we're really facing is a slow march, a decade of steady, creeping automation, what should we really be preparing for?